Your Superior Self, episode 47.
I had every success that almost anybody on the planet would dream of. Houses, cars, women, money, everything. And yeah, it was awesome success. But then right below the surface, there was this hollow sadness because there was no fulfillment on doing anything that mattered, and it was all just consuming.
What is going on, Superior Nation? I am Trey Downs, and this is your Superior Self podcast. I am a blue-collar worker turned into blue-collar entrepreneur, and each week I will interview inspiring influencers who will help you become your superior self. Thank you for joining me today, and let's get after it. During the month of January, I will be reading excerpts from the book, The 48 Laws of Power, written by Robert Greene. It is a national bestseller. It also has been banned from numerous prison institutions due to the influence of these laws. And today I will be wrapping up The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene with law number 17, keep others in suspended terror, cultivate an air of unpredictability. And in this law, Robert Greene says, nothing is more terrifying than the sudden and unpredictable. That is why we are so frightened by earthquakes and tornadoes. We do not know when they will strike. After one has occurred, we wait in terror for the next one. To a lesser degree, this is the effect that unpredictable human behavior has on us. Animals behave in set patterns, which is why we're able to hunt and kill them. Only man has the capacity to consciously alter his behavior, to improvise and overcome the weight of routine and habit. Yet most men do not realize this power. They prefer the comforts of routine, of giving in to the animal nature that has them repeating the same compulsive actions time and time again. They do this because it requires no effort and because they mistakenly believe that if they do not unsettle others, they will be left alone. And most people don't understand a person of power instills a kind of fear by deliberately unsettling those around him to keep the initiative on his side. I agree with that law 100%. Even though I don't apply it to my life the way that he interprets it in the book, I kind of look at it like we are human beings and we are comfortable with daily rituals, daily routines, and we get stagnant and we do the same things day in and day out because they are comfortable for us. Not that I believe we necessarily do that because we want to be left alone. I think that as human beings, we have to have these lists of things to do each day because if we don't have them, we go crazy. We don't know how to handle ourselves. We don't know what to do outside of these lists, these rituals, and you need to get rid of them. You need, in order to grow, to get outside of your comfort zone, which I call our death zone, because we slowly die in these small circles in our lives that we feel comfortable because we don't want to get outside of them, and we don't want to go into the unfamiliar, and we don't want to feel that uneasiness of knowing what's going to happen next. We want to be in this small little warm bed with our warm pillow and covers, and we want to stay there for however long it takes us to get something done. Well, I'm telling you right now, you have to get outside of that. You got to break all your barriers. You got to get rid of that list. It's like going to the gym. You keep going to the gym and doing the same workouts every day. Your body is going to get used to it, and you're not going to have that growth anymore, that development that you want. Same thing with the mind. If you continuously do the same puzzle over and over and over again, you're going to solve it, and then you're not going to be able to challenge yourself. You need to change it up, add some spice to your life. You got to do something different. You got to mix it up. You know, if you're just walking around the block, which is great, don't get me wrong. You're walking around the block. That's awesome. Choose a different block. Choose a different block. Maybe run, walk, change it up. Add some diversity to your life. That way it doesn't become stagnant and that you can challenge yourself in a new way. And speaking of finding something new for your routine, today on the show I have Damion Lupo joining us, which is pretty cool because he is the founder of his own martial art called Yokido. He's also a best-selling author in personal finance and money thinking. He's the host of the Transformation Nation podcast, and he's also the owner of 30 plus companies. And Damion outrightly rejects regret, and he speaks to it as the ultimate life failure. He has a unique approach to living a fulfilled life by breaking rules and making more mistakes faster than the competition, which is actually his key to success. Playing by a different set of rules, he even bought his first rental house with a visa, a move that snowballed into owning 150 rental houses in 7 states in less than 5 years. Today, he leads 3 global companies with one unified mission, and that is to free people from money bondage. Before we jump into the interview, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you guys for all your support. Thank you for everything that you guys do for the podcast. Thank you for all your ratings and your reviews. I ask that you guys continue to do that. If you want to follow me and check out behind the scenes stuff, you can follow me on Twitter at DownsTrey, Instagram at TDowns80. You can also send me a friend request on Facebook at Trey Downs. That's DOWNES. I always love to hear from my fans or my peers. I love hearing from you guys and what your feedback is for the show, or maybe you just want to talk about something that's going on in your life. Feel free to send me a link. Send me whatever you want about what you guys are trying to do. I love hearing from you. You can also send me an email. Hit me up on the website at yoursuperiorself.com. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. That way it goes right to my email. You can contact me over there, get on the mailing list, and then you'll never miss an episode. So wherever you're at, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Your Superior Self. Tonight, I have on the show Damion Lupo. I'm very excited to have him on because he is a best-selling author in personal finance and money thinking, host of the Transformation Nation podcast, owner of 30 plus companies, and founder of his own martial art, Yokido. Damion, welcome to the show.
Hey, Trey. It's good to be here tonight.
So, for my listeners who haven't yet heard of you yet, and I'm sure they will soon, apparently, obviously on this podcast, but give us like an up-to-date, kind of what you're doing, like short bio.
Yeah, you know what I'm doing right now is one thing. I got really inspired by Gary Keller a few years ago. And at the time, you mentioned I had 30 plus. I mean, today, that's kind of an older number because it's over 40 companies. And what I've done is narrowed the focus. So for many years, I had all sorts of things going on. I was chasing a lot of squirrels, made a ton of money with the real estate investing. And when that blew apart and I lost 20 million bucks, part of the process was figuring out the narrow focus. And the narrow focus now is on the one thing that I do, which is to free people from financial bondage.
How do you accumulate 40 companies?
You basically say yes when an idea pops in your brain and you think, oh, that sounds like a business, and you start it. Most people think and they mull, and 10 years goes by. For me, about 10 minutes goes by and I've already formed the corporation.
What was your first company?
When I was 11 years old, I was in the wholesale retail Nintendo business.
Are you still there? Are you still in that?
No, I wish I was. All those things are like vintage artifacts.
What is your most successful company at this time?
I think it was one of my real estate companies because I had a number of them, but overall, that real estate company made probably about $30 million.
So, I mean, you've definitely seen success. What are some of your failures that you've had to go through and work through to get to where you are today?
Well, if you can think it, I've screwed it up. So,
what's your most favorite failure that has led you to where you're at today?
My favorite failure is the biggest one in 2008 when I lost a $20 million portfolio of real estate. And the failure there was not having a foundation that was strong. It was based on quicksand and ego. And when you've got anything based on ego, especially in business, it's likely the universe is going to land a 747 on your head eventually.
Well, I mean, talk about that ego in business. Like a lot of people don't understand what that means. Yeah, I mean, give me an example of that.
Well, so there's a healthy version of an ego, and there's a different version, the unhealthy. The healthy is where you're assured. When you go out into the land of starting a business, being an entrepreneur, you have got to look a little crazy. And part of that's based on an ego. It's your belief in yourself, and you're willing to step out and do things with no proof except your own confidence. The downside of that is when the ego is based on arrogance and when you think you're 10 feet tall and invincible and nothing applies to you, including gravity. That's where you find out that you can splat when you jump out of a plane without a parachute.
Were you always so confident?
I, I, I think I just didn't have any scars, and when whether you're a kid and your parents are beating you down emotionally, telling you you're too stupid, or no, 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 that kind of beats down and it gives you scar tissue. Or if you go out in the real world and you get hammered and you lose money, or you get fired, or you get stepped on, you get scar tissue, and that takes away some of that boldness. So the idea is to peel away all that resistance and be able to step out with confidence, basically being because you're naive.
So you didn't have any of that?
And as a kid, I was told no a lot, but there was some inner fire in me that said, I don't believe that. And so I basically just proved everybody wrong that said, stay safe, stay quiet, do what you're told, and follow the path. I just made up my own path.
Well, how did you do that though? Like, how do you create your own path? Like, as far as, was it right out of college? I mean, you had your first entrepreneur business in Nintendo games and that sort of thing. But like, when did that path really start for you?
Well, it probably started when I got thrown out of college because
Really?
yeah, see, here's what happens with me. I look around and I see problems. I see things that annoy me or frustrate me, and I think somebody else might be having the same problem. In college, the problem was the bookstore ripped everybody off, and I said I can do better. And so I went out and I was buying books for more than they would buy them for, and I was selling them for less. So I took over the used book market for our campus, and they said, president of the company or of the campus said, you either are going to stop your business or we're throwing you out of school. And I said, I'll get back to you in 48 hours. And when I got back to him, I was like going past him on my way off campus because I had made my money, paid for school, and I said, this is not for me.
Well, how did you do that? Like, how do you make a profit? So did you buy the books from the store and then turn them, or did you get them from a different source?
Well, okay, so this is a really good question, and it leads into something else too. I went after the used book market, which was very fat. So there was a 50% profit margin, and I just went to all the students by talking the post office into letting me put little flyers in everybody's box without a stamp because I didn't have any money. I was a broke student, and it basically said, "Let me know what books you want to sell and which ones you want to buy." So I got flooded with all these flyers, and I just matched them up. So how do you do that when you don't have any money? You run over to somebody's room and you say, give me your books. I'll be back in an hour. Then you run those books across campus. You hand them to somebody. They give you money. And then you go and give that money. So I had like an account payable, account receivable. Like it was a crazy, out of control business model that required me to hustle and use my brain.
Did you have a platform as far as, I mean, I'm assuming other than word of mouth, did you have like an internet website or anything like that?
This was well, there was the internet. I mean, this was in the late 90s. So, this is when like the first Netscape came out in mid 90s. There wasn't much platform. My platform was the post office. Like this was old school. And there's a lesson there because when people touch things like a flyer, they have an experience and we get so numb to all the digital stuff. It might be something that can help anybody listening think about doing something different so you don't get lost in the noise.
I love that. Do you think that that technique would work today as far as that touch, that putting a physical marketing object out there to get more looks your way?
There's no doubt because nobody does it. If you look at the venture capitalists, people that are looking to invest in companies, they're generally looking for things that are totally scalable with almost no touch. It's all digital. It's speed, it's microprocessing power, and it's network effect. And the companies, like every company I'm involved with now, it's high touch. It's talking on the phone. It's not just texting. It's physically mailing. It's not just emailing. There's all these things that differentiate us over every other person in the marketplace to where they're noise and I'm the real deal.
So did you sell maybe I'm mixing the story up, but when you sold the used books, and you left campus. Did they ever try to stop you from doing that, furthermore, or did you have to go out of state? How did that work? I think I'm mixing the stories up here.
Well, no. So maybe there's another story about going out of state, but they basically said you can't do this here. And I said, all right, I did it long enough to pay for school, and then I left because I realized it's like a lot of things that are heavily regulated. If you go into that space, you've got everybody trying to stop you, and I just don't like those type of spaces. And in that space, the regulation was they owned the keys to my life, like they could kick me off, out of the dorms.
Did you ever go back to finish school, or did you just go forward in your path to entrepreneurship?
One of the mistakes I made was going back to school to prove something to somebody else for their agenda, their plan. So I did this 4 times. The last time I was a full-time student and it lasted 45 minutes, which is, I think, a record. When you enroll, you do the whole onboarding as a freshman when you're 30 years old. And then after one class and you realize your government teacher is Karl Marx and she's a total communist, you say, I'm out of here. I can't deal with this. I need to go create capital and be a good capitalist.
Yeah, I couldn't deal with that. So you talked about doing it for the wrong reasons. Why did you go back for someone else?
It was part of the reason that I was originally in business, to prove, because I wasn't confident in my own self-worth, because I was a renegade. I was out doing my own thing. And I still cared what people thought. I cared what my parents thought and what society thought. And from the outside, they said, oh, this guy is a college dropout. He's running around to different businesses. And this is one of the reasons I bought a Ferrari, and it was to prove, hey, I'm actually worth something. I'm driving a $250,000 rocket. I'm cool, right? Look at me. And that was my arrogance. That was my ego, not just realizing that I was valuable. It wasn't a car that was going to make me valuable.
Well, at what point did you realize that, though? Was it like a couple months after the car? Did you realize that this wasn't fulfillment, or was there something in your life that happened that changed your perspective?
It took losing all of that stuff, and after losing it, when the problem, the benefit, I was going to say the problem, but really the benefit in being totally connected to your stuff and your money and your net worth, when that is who you are, when you lose it, you have to really evaluate and ask a different question, like, is there more to me than my balance sheet? And that's where I started looking deeper and spending time digging and figuring out, was I just a bunch of digits in a bank account, or was there more to me? Because if it's just digits, it's kind of a purposeless life.
Yeah. When you lost it all, like, talk about that. Like, give me your experience when you realize that you have nothing left.
The experience was, I realized that it wasn't going to eat me. So after I realized that I wasn't my balance sheet, I realized making a mistake, and it doesn't matter whether it's $20 million or 20,000 or it's the last $20 you got, you still are at a start over where everything goes away. And it was a huge opportunity. And I needed to understand that I could go through that process, make those mistakes of whatever it was that caused the 20 million to go away, and I didn't die. Most of us are afraid of making a mistake, taking a bold move, because we think something's in the bushes that's going to eat us.
But I feel like that's different. Like, that viewpoint is way different than what most people would say if they lost $20 million. Like, I think I'd be crushed. I mean,
Well,
I think most people will be.
at first, the response, at least mine, was to just ignore it, pretend it didn't happen, and so continue playing with my American Express Black Card, and eventually, I wanted to ignore it. I didn't want to take responsibility, and so I think people have a lot of different reactions. Some people will just put a gun in their mouth. I mean, the reality is, I had a lot of people around me that did that very thing, because losing tens of millions or hundreds of millions, it wasn't worth the consequences. When your best friends in life that you've known for 30 years tell you they hope you rot in hell, that you're the worst thing that's ever happened to them, it can create some pretty dark places.
And that's what your friends did to you?
There were people in my life, because when I lost money, a lot of people lost money in the whole process, because these were big projects, and I don't think there's a lot of self-responsibility. People tend to be good at blaming and justifying, and sadly, some of those people thought that the entire economy collapsed from me.
Well, they got a place to blame somewhere.
Right.
How do you rebuild from that?
You own your life. I mean, the first step is absolutely owning everything, and then getting narrowly focused. because most of us are stuck, whether we've lost anything or everything or not. We're stuck because we're not focused, we're not dedicated, we're not committed to something. We think we're committed, but we're just spread out all over the place. And that's where, or we're not taking any action, or if we are taking action, we're going in a circle on a merry-go-round. So it was going towards something with a mission that was beyond just my own hedonistic tendencies. It was to impact people. That's the entire focus of my life now, is impacting people and building their confidence, not giving them an attaboy, not just telling them how to go win the lottery, but truly helping people to build their confidence muscle.
And how do you do that? What's your action steps for that?
It's itty bitty baby action steps, the same way you would go to the gym. I mean, you don't get a physique by looking through the window, and you don't go to the gym one time, lift the entire stack of weights, and have the body. So the idea is doing little things to start really doing a neuroplasticity, where we're rewiring the brain. We're doing things different. We might be looking at our environment, changing it. We might be doing something as simple as buying an ounce of silver. I mean, there's these small things, but they're actions, and we can't think our way to wealth. I know everybody's seen The Secret, and we all think we can think a bag of money falling from the sky and hitting us in the head, but that's not real. And it's about our feet moving and us going through the process. And so that's what we do, one step at a time.
Wow, that's powerful, right? I mean, do you find fulfillment in what you're doing today?
Yeah, and it's the exact opposite of 10 years ago, where I had every success that almost anybody on the planet would dream of: houses, cars, women, money, everything. And yeah, it was awesome success. But then right below the surface, there was this hollow sadness because there was no fulfillment on doing anything that mattered, and it was all just consuming.
Hmm. Do you think that can be taught, or do you think people have to learn that lesson for themselves?
You can't teach that. You have to live that. I mean, we have to go through stuff, and it's one of the reasons it's so hard to mentor somebody that isn't super vulnerable, because most people have barriers and they have shields up, and I find most people feel that they're smart enough to figure stuff out. They don't want to say, I don't know, and I'm just going to trust. So they tend to go out there and step on the landmines, even though you stepped on the landmine right before them.
I love that, because the vulnerability part, I don't think a lot of people realize that it's more strength in being vulnerable than masking that, right?
It is. And this is going to sound funny or maybe insulting, but the dumber people are, the more vulnerable they are, the faster they make progress. I love my clients, people I've worked with that are geniuses, doctors, and they are some of the most stubborn people that, but the ones I work with generally are pretty awesome. But by and large, the mass population, if you think about smart people, typically doctors are pretty smart, and they tend to want to do things themselves. Like, they won't just say, I have no idea, I need help. They won't say it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's like they don't want to. I'm a doctor. I'm supposed to help people. People aren't supposed to help me, right?
Yes.
And lawyers. I know the law. I can't show weakness. If I show weakness, then I'm lesser of the professional that I'm supposed to be.
That's what happens. And if you think about why we do that, the ego is protecting our value so that we don't starve to death, because everybody thinks we're a fraud, that we don't know everything. Well, if we say we don't know one thing, people may extrapolate. They may think, oh, well, they don't know everything. I don't want to work with them. I want to go with a person that's going to lie to me and tell me they know everything.
Speaking of fraud, did you ever have like that fraudulent thought, that mindset that whenever you were starting your companies, like, who am I to do this? Who am I to start this? I can't do this. I'm a fraud. Like, did you ever have that experience?
Well, I think in retrospect, I look back and I think, why was anybody listening to me? I think about that with my insurance. When I was 19, I was selling insurance, and I was thinking about what I was doing back then with basically just some books in my head and blind ambition and maybe a heart at the time. But people that listened, if I was looking back, I would have said, you're literally an idiot. What do you know about insurance or money or anything? You got $12 in your account, and you have a high school diploma, and you're helping people structure their insurance. So at the time, you literally have to beat the crap out of the person inside your head that's judging, and otherwise you're never gonna do anything, because we always get better, and we start off less than we will be. So we have to just trust that that's enough, and that we're going to grow into something else.
Do you think it's growth, or do you think, well, I guess it's the same thing. If we build ourselves and who we are today, like you built Damien, who you are right now from your experiences, and I guess growth is the same type of thing, but people that I witness, coworkers, friends that I see on cruise control, do you think there's, for everyone, is there that moment where they realize that, hey, I'm not I shouldn't say better, but I am capable of doing more.
I think that there's a built-in belief that we all have, and then there's this countering argument where we don't want to stand out because we know that people are going to take a swipe at us. They're going to whack us. It's tall poppy in Australia. It's crabs in a box in the States. We tend to want to maintain connection with people because we're tribal. It's a security for survivability, and so we tend not to pop out. And if we blend in with all the other people that are around us, then we won't die. So I think that's why we tend to stay stuck, even though we hear ourselves going, "Yeah, I could and I want, but I shouldn't."
It's all about being comfortable. Everybody wants to be warm and cozy, and they don't want to get outside the comfort zone where growth happens. They want to stay right there in their nice little zone and continue to live 30 years until retirement, and then they wake up one day and say, "What was I doing?"
And the ultimate pain is regret. That's, I mean, when 4 years ago, right before my dad passed away, I had a last conversation, and he looked at me after numerous trips that we had planned to Italy and in Africa that he never went on, and he looked at me and he said, I just had so many things that I wanted to do, and I saw regret. So if you think life is hard now, or you think it might be challenging, or you might get judged, trust me, regret is going to be 1,000 times more painful.
Could you imagine looking back on your life and thinking about the people that you could have been? Like, that's my worst fear is, Les Miles talks about the richest place in the world is a cemetery, because that's where all the dreams and the riches really are. And he talks about how people in the hospital, when they're on their deathbeds, like you had mentioned before, your dad, they're talking about seeing the ghosts of the people they could have been, and asking him, the person in the bed, why didn't you choose us? Why didn't you go after us? People don't realize their potential, and it just is frustrating. I mean, obviously, all we can do, we can't lead a horse to water, but we can make them thirsty, right? We can kind of guide them along the way, and make podcasts and write books, and you're doing a ton of, you have like, what, 9 books now?
Yeah.
You're doing your part, and that's all we can do as motivators and inspirators. But man, it's so crazy to me that people are comfortable, living their lives on cruise control. You ask them how they're doing. The first thing they say is, how are you doing today, Trey? Got 30 more years left, buddy. Why are you counting down the retirement when today is just as valuable as the day that you turn 60? Like, that just boggles my mind.
It's truly sad. And even when we believe that we have something in terms of our potential, we don't trust it. And those are two different things. Belief is like, what you tell me, I believe, but I'm not going to do anything about it. Trusting is saying, okay, what you just said, I'm in, and I go do something. People don't trust themselves. They don't trust their abilities or their confidence. And I think it's the insecurity about being able to adapt to the unknown, because that's what it's all about. We don't have a perfect green lights on every corner expectation, but we want that in order to leave the driveway. And we just have to be willing to learn how to tap the brakes, swerve around a dog, or whatever it is. It's adaptability.
Yeah, everybody wants a Waze for their life,
Right.
like the little app that tells you exactly where you're at and how much further you have to go. But I just feel like it's crazy, right? So we always achieve, or we try to achieve success, and success usually only lasts maybe, what, 7 seconds when you finally reach that pinnacle of it. And it's all about the path, the struggle. That's where like success is like looking back on that path, looking back on the struggles, looking back on the curvy dirt road with cliffs and how many times you almost fell off. And then you're standing there, and for that 7 seconds, you're on top of that mountain of success, and you can look back and say, man, like I did that. Like think about you in 2008 and to where you are right now. Like you lost everything, and now you and I are doing a podcast. And I don't know where you were as far as writing your books or doing your own martial art, but like this is a part of your success. Like you're not there yet, but you're on that path. And imagine like if there was some kind of book saying, you're going to achieve this in X amount of time. Like it just takes away from all that glory.
I have a firm belief that life is about the process of mastery. And there's a great book by George Leonard, who's another martial artist, and it has nothing to do with these moments in time where the only time you have a moment is when you are practicing. This might just be your job. It could be anything. In the dojo, you'll do the same thing for 2 straight years. Nothing happens. And there's no improvement. And then all of a sudden, one day, boom, you pop out of the plateau. And some would call that success. To me, that's the universe giving you a nudge. It doesn't mean you're done. It just means, hey, let me give you a little evidence of progress. Even though you feel like nothing has happened for 2 years, the entire fulfilling process is the point.
I love that. It's kind of like, I think it's bamboo that stays underground for like 5 years, and then it's underground for 5 years, and then it comes up out of the ground, and it's pretty much unbreakable. Think about that. Like wherever you are in your life journey, like you might be in that 5th year, but if you quit right now, like you're never going to pop out of the ground and be unbreakable.
Well, I heard something similar with the bamboo. It's as soon as it pops out, it grows like a foot a day or something, or some crazy amount. And this is what we see when we think, oh, this person had all this success overnight, 1 year, whatever it was. They didn't see all the subsurface root work for the last decade. Everybody misses that part because it's invisible.
Mm-hmm. It's like, look at Tony Robbins. I mean, yeah, he's had a lifetime of success, but look at Gary Vee. Like everybody's seeing his success now. They're not seeing when he started Wine Library or some of the internet stars like JLD on Entrepreneurs on Fire. They don't see all that hard work. They don't see what you've done, Damion. They don't see, like I'm just starting out. So I know that my road is going to be a long one. But they, hopefully one day when I can look back, they're not going to see the late nights of me podcasting and doing episode after episode after episode, staying up, putting my creativity, my touch on it. They're not going to see that. They're going to see, hey, look at Trey. It's so easy for him. It's not. Like the road to success is hard, and you can testify to that.
It's that there is no hack. I mean, let's just get real. As much as I love Tim Ferriss, and I've read all of his books, and I love, the reality is that there is no 4-hour way into being financially free a week. You're not going to hit it unless you're willing to work. Like, because somebody down the street is going to work 8 hours, and they're going to double up on you and crush you. So like you got to get real. I like hacks. I like little things. But I think a little too many people have bought into too little work.
And now somebody's going to come out with a book, The 2-Hour Work Week, and they'll buy that up. And it's just like everybody wants a hack. Everybody wants a shortcut. But
I think the book is called The 7-Day Weekend. I think there's a book out now that says something like that. And it's like, okay, are we just so allergic to work? It's like it's a 4-letter word. I mean, seriously, what is wrong with work? The problem is we hate our work because we're not doing the thing that's part of our purpose. And I'm not talking about passion, because you can be enthusiastically running in the wrong direction. I'm talking about purpose, the path that you're supposed to be on, where you get lost in it, where you literally don't understand time anymore because you're so in the flow. That's the point.
Just drop the mic right now, dude. Like, you just hit the nail on the head. Like, people are afraid of work, but you're not working if you love what you're doing. Like, it is not work. Like, people are always like, I wish I could wake up in my pajamas and just blog and all that. Like, dude, that's not work. Like, the work is good for you. Like, it is, it keeps your mind sharp. It gives you something to do. It lets you be creative. I don't know. There's a difference between, I don't know, like the work-life balance. Like, my philosophy is I just want life. right? But that doesn't mean that I don't want to work, doesn't mean I don't want to create anything. It just means that whatever I do, I want to enjoy it 100%. I don't want to have it, I don't want to be miserable when I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning. I want to jump out of bed. I want to be able to not have to set an alarm and go into the office or go into where I'm going and just be there.
So what's the problem for you, for anybody else? Are we in jail? I mean, unless you have the ultimate security in your life, which is called maximum security prison, you have the choice. I mean, it's the power of free will. And yet, what do? We avoid work. We think play is bad, and our lives are a wreck.
And before we wrap up, I want to hear about your martial art, because this really, really fascinates me. How'd you get started in that?
Something fascinating about martial arts is that when you find the right one, it pulls at you and basically tells you this is your way. It's Budo. It's the way. And when Aikido and I met, it said, "I'm your new father," in a way. It's like this is going to be part of how it's going to raise me. And so over the next 15 years, I was training in this thing. And as I went along, I took on yoga and this other modality called Reiki. And I realized there was an amazing connection between all of these things through me. And when you do something long enough, especially in martial arts, something evolves. You birth a different energy that's a combination of all the influences in your life. Yokido is about these healing elements that really let go of conflict. It's all about relationship, and it's about releasing tension. So that's what my life became. And if you look at my business, you look at how I am when I mentor people, or you look at me in the dojo, it's always the same. It doesn't matter where I am. It's the same energy. It's the same idea. It's about releasing tension and being in a relationship and seeing what happens when you change those two things.
Where can people connect with you?
Best place to find me is DamionLupo.com, and you can explore and journey wherever you want and check everything that's out. If you really want to read a lot of Damion's brain, all the books and stuff are there, but just reach out.
All right. So out of all your books, in relation to what we hit on tonight, which one would be the best one for them to buy?
The most valuable one is the one that was the most painful to actually create, and that's Reinvented Life. And I say that because you're not going to get somebody that reads information and then packages it up into a new book and get as much value as you will from somebody's experience where it's emotional and you can feel it. You'll feel your way through this book. And it's not just a story, it's the actual exercises of what to do if you want to reinvent your life. So I think you'll get a lot of value out of that one. In fact, if you want to go to reinvention.net, there's a downloadable workbook with all of the work to do. It's that 4-letter word again. So if you want that, you can download it. It'll help you get started. You just have to actually do something. It's not just a mental masturbation exercise.
Awesome. I love it. So Damion, I'm going to close it out like I usually do. I want you to kind of give me like a little pep talk, fire me up. Let's say I'm a blue collar worker. I am waking up to my potential. I am ready to spark the fire inside of myself to kind of take a leap outside of my comfort zone. But I need you, Damion Lupo, to kind of give me that extra spark to talk me up and fire me up.
Well, let me say this, that your mistakes will not eat you. The things that you're going to go out there, the only reason that you're not is because you're afraid of judgment, making a mistake, doing something that looks stupid, maybe losing your money. And the reality is you can't learn less. And that's what will happen when you go out there and you take a step. You're going to learn, you're going to grow, you're going to be smarter, you're going to be faster, you're going to build the confidence. And you can't do that staring at a book or watching a TV or thinking about it. You got to go out there. And trust me, you're going to end up on the other side with all of us that have gone through it and are going to be here to welcome you.
I love that, Damion. Thank you so much. Always remember, guys, action is growth. His name is Damion Lupo. Check him out. He is phenomenal. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I want to say thank you to Damion Lupo for joining the show today. If it sounds a little weird on the microphone, I am literally laying on the floor with my newborn baby next to me. I am trying to spend some quality family time. So with that said, you guys have an awesome week, and I'll talk to you guys later.